Professor Peter Figueroa, moving into the vaccine questions. The first one I'm throwing out, I was looking at my social media a few days ago, and persons are asking if the vaccines that are in Jamaica that we are taking, if it will affect fertility.
No, absolutely not. It does not in any way affect fertility.
We have a question.
And in fact, pregnant women who get COVID are more at risk of getting severe COVID. So we are recommending that women who are pregnant definitely take the vaccine, because you don't want to get COVID when you're pregnant. Normally, we would be cautious about giving medication of any kind that can be avoided during the first trimester. That's the first 3 months of pregnancy. Mm-hmm. But when you're facing a surge like this, even if you're in early pregnancy, it suits you to take the vaccine.
Professor, does taking the vaccine prevent one from becoming pregnant if they wanted to be pregnant?
No, absolutely not. You're still going to get pregnant.
Well, that's a question we had. I should have indicated that we took that question from our YouTube page. I think that was Al asking that question.
Another question, Professor Peter Figueroa, someone on our WhatsApp line is asking, can I take the vaccine while I'm having an acid reflux?
Certainly. And take an antacid. Don't eat a large meal just before you're going to bed and then you lie down. Better to eat light in the evening before you go to bed at night. But certainly you can take the vaccine.
Another question. My teenage son is allergic to penicillin. Should I be afraid to have him take the Pfizer this weekend?
No, there should not be a problem. We have persons who have food allergies or allergies to specific medications. This has not been a problem with any of the vaccines, including the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. The allergic reaction that we look out for with the Pfizer is only related to actual ingredients of the vaccine. So it's only a person who has had a severe allergic reaction specifically to a previous vaccine or any ingredients of the Pfizer vaccine. But there's no problem. Persons who are allergic to food or penicillin or other medications can take the Pfizer injection. If you're in doubt when you arrive at the vaccine site, just let the doctor or nurse know that your child is allergic to a specific medication, but in fact, you can take the vaccine. And remember, when you're retained after the child gets the vaccine, they wait at least 15 minutes. If they have a history of an allergy, they may make you wait for 30 minutes just to observe closely that there is no allergic reaction whatsoever.
All right, Professor Figueroa, hold it right there. We're going to take a break and come back with much more questions. Welcome back to Nationwide this morning. On the line, we have with us Professor Peter Figueroa, and we're throwing out all the questions, all the concerns that you have about vaccines this morning. And we have Professor Peter Figueroa on the line to answer your questions. Professor, thank you so much for staying with us.
I'm right here.
Okay. Another one from one of our WhatsAppers. The person says, "Good morning. Please relay my concern to the professor. I have been, and so I've done my research. I've listened to credible sources and have learned that the issues of blood clotting may be as a result of the antibodies that already are existing in the person's body. And when that person takes the vaccine, it clashes and causes that problem." The person says they're convinced that there should not be a one-size-fits-all to this vaccine issue. What's your response?
Yes, well, I agree. There's never a one-size-fits-all situation. We don't fully understand why, on very rare occasions, certain individuals do develop a blood clot with the AstraZeneca or the J&J vaccine. Remember that it is very rare. It happens about to 5 persons every million doses. So the risk is very low, but we can't predict who this blood clot may happen to. What we do know is that persons who develop the blood clot usually develop it within 3 to 14 days after the vaccine, and they develop very severe persistent headache or severe persistent abdominal pain, which gets them to the doctor. And once the doctor is alert and knows that you've taken the vaccine, they'll send you to the hospital, and there is treatment to deal with the blood clot. But we don't fully understand the mechanism, and we don't know why it is that this happens on these rare occasions. If we are at all concerned with any underlying medical condition that we think may put someone more at risk, and we really don't know, but if we just make that judgment, then it's better to offer that person an alternate vaccine like the Pfizer vaccine.
Having made that point about the blood clots, Professor, we have a message from a WhatsApper. "I have a history of DVT. Is it safe to take the vaccine? If yes, which brand of the vaccine would you recommend?"
Did they say they have a history of DVT,
yes.
deep vein thrombosis?
Yes.
Right. Now, deep vein thrombosis is quite a common, it's not an unusual condition. And we have not seen a relationship between persons who have had DVT and getting the blood clot, the unusual blood clot following vaccination. So there is no specific contraindication to getting the AstraZeneca vaccine if you have a history of a deep vein thrombosis. However, if you're concerned, then that is quite a legitimate reason to request the Pfizer instead. And I would hope that the vaccine site would be able to accommodate you.
Another question, Professor Figueroa. Someone is asking on YouTube if they're taking Viagra, can they still get the vaccine?
Yes, they can take the vaccine. Viagra, usually you're not taking it every day, but some people do take it frequently. There's no problem taking the vaccine if you're taking Viagra.
Another one here, a listener asked, for someone with HIV who wants to take the vaccine, what stage the viral load and CD4 has to be for them to get vaccinated?
Well, if they're on treatment, I think they should just go ahead and take the vaccine. It's only those persons whose immune system is severely compromised who we would say, well, let's try and get your immune system in better shape. Let's say a newly diagnosed person who did not know that they had AIDS or HIV and they were not on medication, then I would recommend that they get treated with the medication. The medication we have now is excellent. Literally, within a few weeks, their immune system would be picking up significantly. But if you have been taking medication, even if you don't have full viral load suppression, I would encourage you to take the vaccine as soon as possible, because in this period, we're facing a serious surge that is, with the Delta variant. So the sooner you're vaccinated, the better, because it means that you're protected earlier.
Professor Figueroa, we have 2 calls now. Ludlow, good morning. You have a question for Professor Figueroa?
Good morning. I have multiple questions, but I'm limited only to one. Good morning, Dr. Figueroa.
Morning, Ludlow.
My question is, what about those people who have, I know it is very hard to detect, but what about those people who have, immune system that really fights the flu and all these things over the years? They have never been ill, or they have not taken medication and all of that. And they decide that if they take this vaccine, it might compromise their immune system. I am one of those who have not been ill or over the years, and I'm deep in my 50s. I would like to know what I am so skeptical, because, I just want to know if I've been doing the right thing, or should I continue the way I've been doing.
Okay, so Ludlow.
Having an immune system which is very efficient, I would say.
Okay, Ludlow, if I've got it, you are in your 50s and you're someone who is healthy. You don't usually catch the flu or anything. So this is a sign that your immune system, you have a robust immune system. You usually keep well. So that is great. But even someone who is in the peak of their health, if they're exposed, they can become infected with COVID. Now, someone who is healthy with no underlying conditions, there's a good chance that even if you get COVID, you will be fine, that you will recover, and there will be no significant problem. But we can't guarantee that. And the vaccine can help prepare your immune system, because it primes the immune system to recognize the spike protein of the coronavirus. And therefore, your immune system, since it's so healthy, it will respond even more decisively and protect you from getting the virus. So our advice would still be that you take the vaccine, because it helps to prepare what is already an excellent immune system. It's just a question of being better prepared. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, in some ways, but I try, wear my mask, do all the different protocols, keep a distance, but, as they say, it can slip up. But, I try my best. But my advice from a friend from Israel is that the Pfizer would be the better vaccine. I don't know how true that is, but
the Pfizer is an excellent vaccine, but all of them are good. And remember, even the Pfizer, they find in younger men especially that they do find that on rare occasions, you do find that the young men get what we call a myocarditis, a brief inflammation of the heart, or the pericarditis, which usually goes away within a day or two. So it's not serious. It has not caused any deaths, but we do need to be transparent in relation to the fact none of the vaccines are 100% perfect. Nothing in life is. And these are the rare side effects that we need to be aware of.
Another caller, Professor Figueroa, is Jimmy.
Jimmy?
Hello?
Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning. How are you doing?
We're well. What's your question?
Okay, I want to ask the professor with regards to one of his counterparts within the global village in the likes of Dolores Kyle. She's from the University College of Dublin. She said that the vaccine is dangerous and it should not be taken. As a consequence, I think that would precipitate the level of hesitancy from a lot of Jamaicans and other persons elsewhere. So I want to find out if he could. She broke it down as to give reasons as to why the vaccine should not be taken. I want the professor to break it down for us, tell us how the vaccine works, what are the ingredients, etc. Where necessary, if he can do that, and tell us why. And I would like to have a full rebuttal from him with regards to what she would have said as it relates to the vaccine being dangerous, to the point where she said she would sue for attempted murder if she has gotten the vaccine.
Okay,
That's
Jimmy,
what she would have
thanks
said.
for that question, Jimmy.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that people make these kind of statements and assertions which are just patently not true and do not relate to the facts. They have been given in England both AstraZeneca and Pfizer, and over 70% of their population is now vaccinated. And when they had the surge at the end of last year, coming into this year, when the cases increased, they also found a significant increase in people developing severe COVID and dying. Lots of people were dying. When the Delta surge began in England a month or so ago, the number of cases began to increase significantly, but the persons who were vaccinated, very few of them got ill, and I'm not aware of any deaths. It would be very rare that there were any severe cases or deaths among persons who got either the AstraZeneca or the Pfizer vaccine. So that if you look at the experience of England, you can see that the vaccine were protecting the persons from the Delta variant. Now, if we think of our own experience with the childhood, the vaccines that we use to give the children in the Caribbean and in Jamaica, the measles, the mumps, the rubella, the pertussis, the tetanus, the diphtheria, the hepatitis B, the Haemophilus influenza, all of these vaccines we give our children, and we've been doing so for the past 3 or 4 decades. And we have transformed the lives of our children, because when I was growing up, everyone used to get measles and hundreds would die from it. People would die from diphtheria. We've had polio outbreaks. And because of the vaccination program of giving all these children the childhood vaccines, the Caribbean led the world in eliminating polio, measles, and the other childhood diseases. The vaccines that are currently made for COVID are using the latest technology and all the experience that we have and expertise that go into the childhood vaccines. And they've had to go through very rigorous trials before and the data reviewed in order for them to be authorized. So statements like from that lady and other persons are just completely, out of line and just have nothing to do with reality.
Prof, we have so many questions for you. Would you mind staying with us for another 10 minutes? We want to take...
Yes, I'm with you.
After 8 o'clock. After 8 o'clock. So we're going to take the break, then come back with you and take you up to 8. We're going to take our brief across Jamaica and then come back to you right after that. So maybe 3 minutes after 8, we'll come back to you. So stay with us as we bring you up to 8 o'clock right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much for staying with us right here on Nationwide 90 FM. You're listening to This Morning. We have Professor Peter Figueroa with us answering our questions. So many questions coming in, Doc. One question is, if you have a heart condition, can you still take the vaccine? Or is there any heart condition that prevents them from taking the vaccine?
No, any heart condition, all the more reason to take the vaccine, because that's a serious comorbidity if you get ill with COVID. So certainly at the earliest opportunity, take any of the authorized vaccines.
We have some callers on the line as we go up to 8, Professor Peter Figueroa. The first one, Miss Smith, good morning. Ask your question.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to ask, we're hearing out there in the domain that people are saying the vaccine will affect your DNA, automatically change your DNA. Could you give us some brief information on this, please?
All right. Thank you, Miss Smith. You heard that, Professor Figueroa?
Yes, I did. Thanks for the question, Miss Smith. This is one of the misinformations, because the vaccine, like the Pfizer, it does not, although it enters the white blood cell, it does not go into the nucleus. The vaccines that are used do not and cannot affect our DNA. It's something like the HIV. That virus does enter the cell and it gets embedded in the genetic material of the cell. And this is why we don't have a cure for HIV. But none of the vaccines that have been produced, either for COVID or for any of the diseases that affect children for which we vaccinate, none of them interfere with our genes or interfere with our cells, the genetic material of our cells.
Another caller, Professor Peter Figueroa, George. Ask your question, George.
Good morning, Doctor.
Morning, George.
How are you? Happy to have you this morning.
I'm good, man. Let's hear the question.
Okay, 2 questions. I want to know, right? For me, I'm taking vitamins like silver and vitamin B12. Will that affect me if I take a vaccine?
No, man.
All
You
right.
just press ahead and take the vaccine.
All right.
And you can take your vitamins, any vitamins, no problem.
And the black seed oil, right?
No problem.
All right. The next question is now, the other member of my family, she had an hormone imbalance, right? And she would have some irregular periods. And she had went to the doctor and get that corrected. Is she safe to proceed to the vaccine?
She can take the vaccine. I'm glad to hear that the doctor was able to correct the hormonal imbalance.
Not the
but
hormone.
The truth is,
not the hormone, doctor, the bleeding.
Oh, she had bleeding, right?
Yes.
But I was just going to say that even when she was having the bleeding, she, and the doctor was treating her, even before that was resolved, she could have taken the vaccine. That would not be a problem.
Okay, so about the hormone imbalance now.
Yeah, the hormone imbalance would not be a problem. Those kind of, people can have a range of medical conditions. A woman can have irregular bleeding, hormonal imbalance. She could have fibroids, but she can take the vaccine.
What about bipolar? What about bipolar?
Bipolar? No, take the vaccine. Certainly, any kind of condition like bipolar. Persons who are depressed, you have to encourage them because they have less initiative sometimes. So you have to encourage them and support them in taking the vaccine. All these sort of conditions are not a problem. It's better to have the vaccine because that helps to protect.
And
doctor, I want to thank you because as soon as these artificial information come to my phone, I delete them. I don't read them because I don't want them to enter into my mind, because I rather to listen to the science and the people with the discovery.
All right. Well, thank you so much, George. A final caller before we go to the quick break. Anthony.
How are you doing?
Well,
I'm good, Anthony. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a clinical scientist and a microbiologist. I just want to support your statement that the vaccines work and people should take it. However, I'm kind of trying to find out, given the scarcity of the vaccine and the availability of it, do you think that persons that have already been infected and have built up some kind of immunity, do they need to take both shots? And lastly, at the rate of the take-up of the vaccines right now, how long do you realistically say it will be before we get to 70% in terms of herd immunity?
Thanks,
Okay,
Anthony.
Thanks for those excellent questions. And thanks for the support, when someone gets COVID, we recommend that they wait 4 to 6 months and then after they recover and then take 1 dose of any of the vaccines. And this is really just to give the natural immunity that they develop from the disease, to give it a boost, because they have been looking at persons. They are occasionally, there are individuals who get reinfected. And it appears that by giving 1 booster dose 4 to 6 months after they recover from COVID, it helps to protect them, for instance, from a new variant or from reinfection. In relation to the rate of take-up of the vaccine, unfortunately, we are moving along slowly because we have not had enough vaccine. But, there are hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who want to get vaccinated. And I think we need to be concentrating on getting those persons on the front line. The doctors are largely vaccinated, the nurses, persons who look after COVID patients, emergency workers, and the elderly. We need to get them vaccinated, and then those school children who have the exam year coming up. It's going to take us time. We're not even 5% fully vaccinated, 10% with at least 1 dose. We need a lot more vaccine than we have, and we just have to roll it out systematically. So I think it's too early to predict when will we have herd immunity in Jamaica. What it means is that we have to continue to follow the protocols during this period of rolling out the vaccine, because the majority of people are still not vaccinated. And we have to wear our masks, hand hygiene, avoid crowds, and maintain physical distancing.
All right. Well, that's a good place to leave it for now. So, Professor Peter Figueroa, stay with us.
Right.
We're going to take a quick break, have Across Jamaica, and then come right back to you. So stay with us.
Thank you so much for staying with us right here on Nationwide 90 FM. You're listening to a special edition of This Morning. We're taking your questions, and Professor Peter Figueroa has consented to stay with us for most of the morning to answer your questions. We have with us, I think we had 2 callers, Tona.
Right. Rennie, you're on the line. Ask your question.
All right. Thank you. Morning to everyone. All right. First question. With regard to what the statement made earlier, somebody has COVID-19, indicate they wait 4 to 6 months before they can take the vaccine, right? Now, the other thing is I want to find out, can they take the Johnson & Johnson shot, or they should just take AstraZeneca since it's 2 shots?
Thanks for that question. They can either take 1 shot of AstraZeneca, or they could take the Johnson & Johnson. They can take any one of the authorized vaccines, but usually just 1 dose is enough in this situation.
Okay, the next question. I took my first shot of AstraZeneca. Can I take a mix mixed vaccines, for example, the Pfizer or the Johnson and Johnson, or you recommend that I wait and then take the AstraZeneca, the other AstraZeneca shot?
Yes, the recommendation currently is that it is better to stick with the same vaccine that you started with. So if you got AstraZeneca, then stick with the AstraZeneca for your second dose, because that is what we have experience with and know how the body reacts. They have done some studies where they have given AstraZeneca first and they're followed by a Pfizer dose, and it appears as if you have a good response and there is no safety issue. So in the event that there was no AstraZeneca at all and there was only Pfizer available, then we would say, okay, go ahead and take the Pfizer. But in the normal situation, it's better just to stick with the same vaccine until we have more experience with more trials to see how persons react.
Another caller here for you, Prof. Philip. Go ahead and ask your question. Philip? Seems to
Hello?
Yes,
yes,
Philip,
go ahead,
what's your
Philip.
question?
No, man, this is Winston.
Oh,
Oh,
Winston.
Winston.
Good morning. Go ahead and
Yeah.
ask your question.
Morning, Prof. Morning, dear everyone. But first of all, I must commend you on your composure and how you explain everything from this inception of this disease. You're very practical and very understandable. Now, Prof, I have taken my first shot, right? I should have gotten my second shot on the 9th of August. But unfortunately, when I came in, I was about 10 minutes late. So they had to reschedule me. When I went back on Monday, they said that they'll call me sometime next week. I think one of the challenges that we're facing is that these centers, I think they need to be equipped with more vaccine now that there is some form of availability of the vaccine. That's one. Now, two, like when I've got my first shot of the AstraZeneca, am I still vulnerable 100% to this Delta variant, or am I 50% a little bit better off than those who don't take any at all?
Go ahead and answer, Prof.
Okay, Winston, thanks for your questions and your kind comment. You've had one dose of the AstraZeneca, and unfortunately, when you went back, you didn't get your second dose. As soon as you can get your second dose, please try and get it, the AstraZeneca. The first dose does give you some degree of protection. Normally, I would say that the first dose after 4 weeks would give you up to 70% protection. But against the Delta variant, the protection is not as great. It might be as low as 35% protection after one dose. So you do need to get your second dose as soon as possible. And I couldn't agree with you more that we need to have more of the health centers available with the vaccine so that you can get it more readily. And, some of the elderly people, we need to facilitate them more so that they can get the vaccine. But you don't need to worry about the fact that you are delayed in getting your second dose, but you could be vulnerable to the variant. So the quicker you get it, the better.
Coming to you, Prof, with questions from online. We have, I'm putting two together for you, sickle cell and sterility. If you have the sickle cell illness or have a fear that the vaccines will make you sterile, your guidance, sir.
Yes, persons with sickle cell should get the vaccine, any of the authorized vaccines. And I can understand, because of the misinformation, that persons will have concerns and fears, about taking the vaccine. There's no evidence whatsoever to say that someone who takes a vaccine, that it will affect fertility. So please just go ahead and get the vaccine as soon as possible. And sickle cell is a comorbid condition. So the quicker you get the vaccine, the better.
Another one from over on Twitter, Prof. The person is saying, is there any condition where a caution should be taken and consult your doctor before taking the vax?
Yeah, persons who may have any significant compromise of their immune system, for instance, persons with a cancer who are being treated with a cancer and are taking radiation therapy or chemotherapy, then they should consult their doctor. And usually we say that we wait until you've completed a cycle of chemotherapy or radiation and your immune system is recovering, and then you get your vaccine. But anyone who has a very serious illness, an acute illness, it's better not to take the vaccine at that time because your body is already fighting a particular illness, whatever it is, and wait until you recover. But if you're in doubt, some people have some unusual conditions that their doctor knows about. If you have any doubt, talk to your doctor, and your doctor can always consult with a colleague if he's not sure, and give you a good advice. But in most instances, you're able to take the vaccine, even if you have underlying conditions. And in fact, if you do have underlying conditions, it's better to take the vaccine.
Follow up to that, doctor, are there any medications that anyone is on or has to take that would prevent them from getting the vaccine?
Well, there are certain chemotherapeutic agencies that depress the immune system. Steroids, if you're taking a heavy dose of steroids, it would probably be better to wait until that dose is reduced, or that you get a pause in the dose. These are situations where you should consult with your doctor and get advice.
Another one here, Prof. A 20-year-old daughter got first shot of AstraZeneca in April, had a bad reaction, had to be taken to hospital, found blood clot in the heart, the left side, and was admitted for 4 days. Can she take another vaccine since they're assuming that AstraZeneca did that?
Wow, well, I'm really sorry to hear about that. I'm glad that everyone was alert, got her to the hospital, and that she is fine. I certainly would not give her the AstraZeneca again. So someone like that, she could take 1 dose of the Pfizer as the booster dose, because we have not seen any kind of clotting association with the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. So she is only partially protected from her 1 dose. So it would be good for her to get a Pfizer dose, and she's 20. I think she could make the case when they open up the stations for Pfizer to get her Pfizer when the time is due.
My wife has taken 1 dose of AstraZeneca already and has since tested positive. When should she take her second dose?
I would wait another 4 months after she's fully recovered. It's an interesting situation because she got 1 dose, wasn't fully protected, and now got ill. I would take a second dose approximately 4 to 6 months after she's recovered.
Prof, another one here. A lot of people are skeptical about this quote-unquote speed at which the vaccine was developed. Can you address that one?
Sure. Remember, we had the SARS outbreak, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, in 2003, which was due to a different coronavirus. And at that time, persons who got SARS, 1 out of 3 died. So immediately the scientists started working on developing a vaccine against a coronavirus causing SARS. in 2012, we had MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. And again, that is due to a coronavirus. And that stimulated further research on developing a vaccine against the coronavirus. So the truth is that a couple of the big pharmaceutical companies already had a vaccine prepared against the coronavirus that causes SARS, because we were worried that we may get another pandemic of SARS. And so when the Chinese scientists isolated the coronavirus that causes COVID, they actually decoded the genome, the genetic code of that virus, and shared it with all scientists internationally. So those companies that had already developed the vaccine against the coronavirus causing SARS, all they needed to do was make an adjustment in the code of the vaccine to produce a protein that mimics the spike protein in the coronavirus that causes COVID. It meant that they were able to get that vaccine, develop it within, just by changing the SARS vaccine, within 2 weeks. They had a vaccine that they could start doing animal studies, and within a couple months they were able to start the clinical trials in healthy humans. So, and the research for the messenger RNA was going on from the early 1990s. So it appears as if the COVID vaccine was developed rapidly, but there's a reason, there's an explanation that is related to the SARS, the MERS, and the development of an earlier vaccine against those conditions.
Thank you so much, Professor Figueroa. Just before we close out, one final question. What if you have the virus and you don't know and you take the vaccine? What can happen?
Well, in fact, that happened during the clinical trials, and there was no adverse effect to any of the persons who had the virus and were given the vaccine. We don't recommend that people who know that they have the virus or who are ill, that they get the vaccine. But when it does happen inadvertently, there does not seem to be any ill effect.
Let's wrap out. Professor Peter Figueroa, if you're a diabetic and you're taking metformin,
Metformin, an excellent drug
sorry.
for diabetes, yes. Of course, diabetics need to get vaccinated early because diabetics are more at risk of getting serious COVID.
There's so many questions, Professor, but we're so grateful for your time this morning. We appreciate you sharing with us this morning. Thank you so very much once again for coming into this morning and answering all our questions.
All right.